Hi and welcome back. I'm Cecilia, and in this video I'm going to talk about academic writing style and what we need to think of when we edit and proofread. The goal should be a text that's clear, concise and easy to follow, and we want the reader's attention to be on the topic rather than on something else. In other words, we want to write elegantly, but in a way that doesn't direct the reader's attention away from the topic and argument. When we edit and proofread for language, one of the first things we often do is to check how the sentences we've written look. We want them to be grammatically correct, of course, but we also want them to look a certain way. For example, we want them to be complete sentences, in the sense that they have both a subject and a predicate. The subject tells us who the agent or actor is, in other words, who does something or causes something to happen, while the predicate tells us what happened. Elements that lack either a subject or a predicate are called sentence fragments. And whereas sentence fragments are very common in spoken language, they shouldn't be used in academic writing because they make the text sound very spoken language-like and unfocused. Sentence fragments can be quite tricky because they can contain full clauses inside of them as modifiers, and that can fool us into thinking that the whole fragment is a complete sentence, which it isn't. Many beginning writers also worry about the length of their sentences. There's really no simple solution here. Your sentences should be long enough so the text does not look choppy, but they shouldn't be too long because then your reader will get lost. A good rule of thumb is to aim at one main clause and one or two subclauses in the same sentence, and to vary the length of sentences a bit, as that will make the text easier to read. We also need to check how we combine clauses to form sentences and make sure that we choose the right conjunctions. Conjunctions are small linking words like and, or, but, if, because, and so on. It's important to use the right conjunction, because we don't want to end up implying, for example, a cause and effect relation if there isn't one. We should also make sure that we vary the conjunctions we use. A number of clauses that are joined with one and the same conjunction, for example, and, sound very spoken language-like, and they may actually give the text a bit childish flavor, which we of course don't want. A sentence like, I went home and ate, and then the telephone rang, and it was my grandmother, and she wanted to know how I was doing, is much better if we divide it and get rid of most of the conjunctions. I went home and ate, then the telephone rang, it was my grandmother who wanted to know how I was doing. Editing and proofreading a text for style also means that we need to check for places where we may have used unnecessarily complex or wordy expressions and replaced them with more precise alternatives. There are expressions that may sound grand and we may think they make our text more elegant and somehow more academic, but the truth is that they often make the text just more difficult to read. As many of these expressions are also vague in meaning, they contribute very little to what we're trying to say. Examples of complex and wordy expressions that we need to watch out for include nominalizations. Now, these are words where a verb has been turned into a noun with the help of an ending of some kind. Because every sentence still needs a verb, we then need to come up with another verb and usually some articles and prepositions as well to make up for the verb that we lost by turning it into a noun. So all of a sudden we have 4 or 5 words instead of just the one that we started out with. Nominalizations have their uses, but we should be careful and not overuse them. We should also avoid using them when there is a precise, strong verb available that says the same thing. Other examples of wordy expressions include clichés and other fixed expressions like the bottom line, to make a long story short, at the end of the day, it all boils down to this, and so on. It's also a good idea to watch out for figurative or non-literal language in academic essays because it may complicate the text unnecessarily. Not all figurative expressions are easy to interpret, and they may actually direct the reader's attention away from the topic. To sum up, the focus in academic writing should be on what we say and what evidence we present for our claim, and not on how cleverly we say things or what linguistic tricks we use in our writing.